2013. Has the meeting been officially warned?
Yes, it has.
Excellent. I think the first matter on the agenda, like usual, is public participation. So if there's anybody here who's in attendance who wants to speak to anything that's not on the agenda, now is a good time. Hearing none, the next matter on the agenda is the contract issue, but not in executive session, of town manager search. So, Abby, if you just want to introduce yourself and
Sure.
talk to us.
Thanks for having me come down. My name is Abby Friedman. I'm the director of the Municipal Assistance Center at the Vermont League of Cities and Towns. We call ourselves MAC and VLCT. One of the services that the League has provided to towns for 30 plus years is helping towns find new town managers when they are in need of assistance. Mainly we're providing sort of the back office support and also sort of keeping everything going, I guess. I sent these packets, which is a typical packet that we send out, a proposal packet, and it includes, I'll just walk you through what's inside. One is a cover letter which describes all the different steps that we can take in the search process. Behind that there's some copies of survey reports for salary information for managers and administrators around the state of Vermont. There's one that we do every year, a compensation report, and then there's one that we do on behalf of the Vermont Town and City Manager Association, VTCMA. And so that's on the right-hand side. And then on the left-hand side, there's this piece, items to consider when searching for a manager or administrator. Hi, Barbara.
How you doing?
And then there are also samples of ads and job descriptions for managers that we've done searches for fairly recently. So Colchester, Northfield Village, Wilmington, St. Johnsbury, and then after that, there's a couple of other samples. And one of them is this tiny print. You don't really need to pay too much attention to the print, but this is how we organize the information. One of the things that we do is we take in all the applications, sort through them, and then try to match the criteria of your ad and job description to how well numbers of years of experience different applicants have meeting those criteria. And we record it, we summarize it in this spreadsheet. And so then it's just a kind of a cheat sheet on each applicant to have handy. This other spreadsheet is a sample of advertising. So another thing we do is we place all the ads and then deal with all the billing for those ads. And then, and the last one is on background check services. We work with a private investigator, a vendor who does background checks for your finalist. Usually that's in the final stage. So I can run through more of the nuts and bolts of the process, or whatever is most helpful here. Generally we have this meeting and I can answer any questions you have, and then prior to actually starting any work we would sign a services agreement. And usually one of the main questions is, what is the cost? And the cost is $5,000 to do all of this back office work that I'm talking about. And then the cost of, it's a not to exceed 5,000, so that doesn't mean we hit 5,000, it just means that's there. And then the cost of advertising is on the side of that. And we track all of our time. It's my time as well as the time of an assistant in my office. We're billed at different hourly rates. We track our time on timesheets. And then we provide invoices to the town. And so you are up to date on what's being spent. And no money is spent without prior approval. So generally, we start with this meeting and then we create a timeline, sort of starting from when you want someone here or when it's most feasible to have someone here, and then work backward from there. The nice thing about the digital age is that advertising can be fairly spontaneous over the internet, whereas you used to have to wait for newspapers and need a lot more time, I think, for advertising than you do now. We have a couple of places that we advertise all the time, and one is the ICMA, which is the International City Management Association, and Barbara's probably a member, and that's the professional association for managers, and they are a place where any manager looking for work is going to go to see what's posted in their classifieds and in their newsletter. Another thing about working with us is that we have agreements with other New England municipal leagues to do sort of reciprocal agreements, so we can advertise in their newsletter, they advertise in ours. We also post it on our website for free, put it in our newsletter for free, send it around to our list of managers and administrators, folks we know in the state. And so we put all that call out, and then we receive all the applications at our office, keep them organized. As I mentioned, go ahead and summarize all the experience that they have, how well they meet your criteria, and then we provide all that back to you, copies. We call them application packets. So any application received, you get, because we make no judgment as to, we're not part of the decision-making in the process. We're just providing administrative support. So we give you those packets and then sort of walk you through, generally there's a first round of interviews. Sometimes towns will have a selection committee that's composed of select board, members of the public, members of staff. It all depends. Everything from that to just the select board handling everything themselves. And then those folks go through and do an initial cut. And we're doing the town of Brandon right now. We're working on that search, and we have 60 plus applications for that. So I think 60, I think for Brattleboro, you're going to see more than that.
I'd be surprised if you don't have 90.
At least, yeah. I was going to say around 100. So having some other eyes help sort through and decide who that first pool of interviewees will be can be very helpful. We set up all the interviews for you. We're not part of the interviews. We provide model questions that other towns have used. You can ask, you can use those questions as you wish. We also provide guidance on, what can you ask and what can't you ask legally. And then once you narrow it down, we do the second round interviews and, sort of help you through the whole thing down to when you're at some finalists, a small number of finalists, then I can do reference checking. We can have our investigator do the background check and answer all questions that come along the way.
What's usually the last, how many are in the last group, roughly? I mean, for the last round of...
The last round, no more than 3, probably, I would say.
3 to 4.
Yeah,
3 to 4.
It really depends on what your pool is. 'Cause
Yeah.
depending on your pool and what you're looking for, that can vary. Sometimes there's only 2 rounds of interviews, but there can be 3 as well. So to help just sort of narrow things down.
Can you please speak to the time frame? What sorts of dates would we be set or reasonable?
So yeah, so the largest time span is how long the ad is out there. And personally, I feel like at least you have to have at least 4 weeks. And that's where there's, you can do it in a short amount of time, you just have less exposure. So I would say 4 weeks for that, and then we get them applications in. Our sorting process takes a week. We get them to you. You guys take a week or so to look through them. We set up the interviews. I mean, it can take 3 months. I mean, you can do it in a very expedited way, or you can take a longer amount of time.
You could also, you can do it as set a date of when the review will start, and then you can continue to accept applications after that. But you could say priority given to the applications received by such and such a date. It doesn't then close the door.
We usually say resume review will begin X date.
So we don't have to also wait for Barb's leaving. This process can start.
Oh, no.
Right.
We should wait.
No, we should not wait.
There were sample ads.
Yeah, the ads are over on this side. And they're generally, one thing that's also really great about the internet age is that you can post a job description on your website, and you can post the ad on your website. And so in the ad, we can just link to your website rather than making it really lengthy and having it be more expensive. So there's a kind of a range of towns, but you can see some common themes to these ads.
So it sounds like one of the limiting factors in terms of our ability to start, besides entering into the contract, is that we need to go through the job descriptions and we need to make a decision about what we're looking for.
Yep, and your salary range too, because the ad will have the salary range. So having a job description is great. I mean, it really helps everyone. It helps you, it helps applicants really understand what is it that you're looking for.
Do you
Probably
help us
have a
in
link
that?
to the charter there too.
Do you help us in that process? Or
I can, yeah, I can.
I had asked Barb, there are current job descriptions for the town manager and the assistant town manager, and those will be available either today or tomorrow. I
Yeah.
guess you'll email them to us.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't have time before
Of
this,
course.
after we talked.
Now, in terms of other things that we are looking for and we want to stress in the posting and priorities, are there suggestions that you have about ways to focus that discussion?
Well, you can see like I said, the ads sort of follow a general format, and the first is introducing the town and why someone wants to come and work here, and then secondly is what the manager is responsible for, the number of select board members, the number of people, department heads and staff that are supervised, the amount of the general operating budget, and then the qualifications that in particular that you're looking for, which generally are public administration, finance, government experience. So you can, once you put that out there, we get applicants from everywhere, really. I mean, in-state and all around the country, all kinds of experience, people with 30 years experience in the field, people still finishing up their grad school diploma. I mean, so you really you'll get a wide range of applications.
But do we, I don't know if David meant this as well, but we sort of have to know beyond like the degree they have, or that they can, know how to balance a budget. We sort of as a board need to know what we're looking for more in the big long-term sense.
And
do you know what I mean?
I think that is what I was asking. Maybe that wasn't clear.
Yeah.
The job
So we need
description
to-
is going to help you with that.
Well, I almost think it's beyond just the words on it. I mean, it's sort of a visionary thing
Right.
for us as a board to have a discussion on what is our vision, not just for the town manager, but also for the town, so we can hire somebody that can help
That
us
sees
with
where
that
we want
vision.
to go.
Yeah. And I don't know how, that's part of the question, how do we do that?
I don't know how you organize a discussion like that, but if anybody's got any thoughts, that's what I'm
And there
looking
are
for.
some of the things that you're going to look at. So you've established your own goals, right? And you're also going to want to see kind of what are your bigger concerns for the coming, And so that's going to help you just define what are the skills that are going to be more important to you. You don't have you have a kind of solid finance department right now. You want to look at, so when you look at the job description, you're going to want to say, okay, so what are so there's the area of HR, how important is that? Where's that fall in our priority? There's economic development, how important is that in our priority? How important? And I think we could get something together with questions, thought-provoking questions that then you folks can move into. That would help determine what you think is, what do you want to emphasize? You don't want to hire what you have or what you had, because you want to build on what you have and what you've had. You want to do better than me.
I mean, that's a given.
But you have the legal responsibilities of the manager, and then you have sort of those the soft skills, interpersonal communication, all those kinds of things. Do you want someone who's a facilitator, who's bringing ideas to the board, or someone who's absorbing the ideas of the board? I mean, there's sort of things like that. The town of Colchester, they have done this really big strategic planning process fairly recently, so they had this big document about the Heritage Project and what the town wanted, and that I think is the most I've ever seen of a town with a big
Vision.
picture plan, vision, yeah. And I don't even know how long it took or how much it cost, but you know, that was a reference point that people could look to. So I don't know in terms of your town plan. Or,
Town plan was just done.
Was just done.
adopted,
Yeah.
so it's a good time.
yeah, it's great.
It's a good time for that. It may be of assistance for you guys to go onto the ICMA site and to go to the job seekers section and just look and see
What site is that again? ICE.org.
ICMA.org, I think, yeah. Yeah. And just look at it, comes in a map. You can just click, and you can just kind of get a sense of, some are really long, some are short, but you get a sense of what the verbiage is.
For ads.
For ads, and well,
And
and
for
even you're
applicants.
gonna do the ad, but also just to say, it's like, ooh, that is a good skill that you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
That, so that if you're basing what you want on the position description, and that maybe that's deficient, you know, because it hasn't been looked at for a few years, then maybe you want to look at that.
Yeah, that website is great. I mean, there's a lot there, and Barb probably knows better how to navigate it than I do, but there's all kinds of information there, both for professional managers and people that would be hiring them.
Other questions or inquiries from members of the board? I'll be right with you. I have another question or two. So we have to do our homework in order to be able to provide you with essentially a job listing, a job advertisement, but we'll work with you in finalizing that. That's fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to help you out however I can.
But we really need to consider for ourselves what we're looking for with reference, for example, to these materials and the job descriptions that we're going to get.
I mean, the other thing is, if you know of other managers in the state, we have job descriptions for lots of managers, not just the ones that we did searches for. So if you have read an article about somebody and think, wow, that guy, that sounds like a good person, we might have their job description. So, look, a lot of times it seems like Vermont towns, say, oh, wow, did someone already do that? Can I sort of take a look at what someone already did and then just, infuse, our unique aspects into it.
Yeah, this also seems, it seems like a fair price too for what we're getting. This is a lot of work. And there's full-time people here that are, doing this part-time. So this is going to help out immensely.
I don't think we've gotten to 5,000 lately.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, we had to do the price differential when it was a large town, a large city that we did a few years ago. So it's only recently that we made that change.
Mm-hmm.
Well, another decision that you all need to make is whether or not it's going to be a confidential process. Personnel by law is, confidential process. You definitely will widen your pool if it's a confidential process, because someone who's working already as a manager and is interested in seeing if they might be, maybe I want to do that, but if I'm not going to get hired by them, I don't want to lose the job I have now. So we put that on the ad as well.
Could you speak to how the process, non-confidential or confidential, would unfold and differ so that we understand that?
I haven't done one that's not been confidential, but I think that if people knew that their names were going to be tossed around in meetings in the public, they would be either more likely or less likely to apply.
And so,
if they had a job already and they had no idea if you were going to select them out of 100 people.
So that means our interviews would
The interviews are an executive
be
session.
an executive session, as would be interviews with any subgroups, for example, of department heads or employees, and then if we had separate citizens group or citizen input with the select board, all of that would be an executive session.
Those committees usually are appointed, you appoint them as public bodies, and so they can use an executive session to have those interviews. The town of Colchester did that there were rounds with staff committee and a citizen committee. Volunteers were, the word was put out, volunteers may submit their names, and then they pick names out of a hat. They said it's going to be a 10-person committee, and they pick names out of a hat, and that's how they came up with that. And how confidential is confidential? Well, I think the people applying for these jobs at some point realize that, I'm going to be walking into the municipal building at 5 o'clock when their interview's scheduled, but they also work in the public. I mean, you're going to be hiring a seasoned manager who understands that it's a public job, so.
Do you find that the pool? Do you find that the pool that you get? Is there a lot of local people that apply?
Yeah, there are. There can be local people. There can be New England people. There are people who are from Vermont and went away and want to come back. There are people who think that they can come here and ski and hang out and
wonderful.
do town manager job, which is no way.
Bob has done that for.
There are people, the other thing about the internet too is that there are these job-seeking websites, and so they'll match someone up with some term in the ad, and then you'll get this bizarre, why is this person applying? But really it's just an algorithm that sort of put them together, so.
And the majority of resumes and letters of interest we wouldn't see, right?
You see them all.
We would see them all.
Absolutely.
So there's no screening on your part.
All we do is sort.
Got it, okay.
So prioritizing, that's
our
you say
job.
sort?
I say, but so if you...
So what's the sorting process?
The sorting process is usually, so the spreadsheet
Right.
with the tiny print, this one
Oh,
here.
right. Yep.
This top row, these are criteria from your ad. So it's
How it matches
general
up.
management, personnel management, financial management, local government experience, Vermont employment, town meeting experience. So we say, okay, this person had 5 years general management, but they haven't done any, so we fill these, we look at the resumes and calculate out the number of years of experience that are important, that you've highlighted as important in the ad.
And so you are ranking and prioritizing. It's essentially you're doing a matrix,
Yeah.
or you can do a
Right.
matrix, or that you do.
Yeah.
Right, but we're not doing any subjective. We're
Right.
trying to just sort of say objectively,
Fill
this
in
is
the
what we
blanks.
saw on the paper,
Right.
yeah.
We should note that was Donna's first comment.
I wanted you to say, you've got to recognize Donna. This is her first meeting.
Yep.
So I was.
Donna was appointed on Thursday.
Oh, wow,
That's
congratulations.
enough, right?
Thank you so much.
And anyone who has experience, has either done this as a select board member, hired, was here when Barbara was hired, or even in your private life, whatever it is you do for work, if you have experience with hiring and personnel, and that can be helpful.
You're all set now?
All set.
All right.
Forgot what you were going to say, didn't you?
It's quiet, I think, because everybody is just still figuring out
Yeah.
where we're going and what we're doing. Howard?
Well, you alluded to a citizen committee. Is that a foregone conclusion, or is that something?
We haven't made a decision yet about the process at all. It's certainly an alternative, but we haven't decided at all yet.
So no decision one way or the other?
No.
The other thing you can do is, on the back of this letter, there's the names and phone numbers for select board chairs or whoever's leading the process when we did the searches recently, and you can call them up and say, what did you do? How did it work? What would you change? And you can ask those people directly. I don't think no two are the same.
So generally, after you have this kind of an introductory meeting with the select board that's going to embark on a town manager search, how long is it until the board comes back and enters into the contract with you? And then how long does it take until we're ready to post something? What's your experience been?
Everything from the next day to 3 months later.
Okay.
So, the agreement is this. The agreement are the steps that are here.
Right.
And so goes in there. I can send it to you and you all can take more time to look at it, or if you have other questions.
As far as I'm concerned, I'd just assume getting the ball rolling as quickly as possible.
Right.
I mean, but that's just me. I'm aggressive.
Schedule a job description and
Right.
creating meeting.
We'll have to make time to
Yeah.
talk about these ideas probably preliminarily in executive session and then do a public session before we post.
Well, how long do we need to take to decide whether we're hiring VLCT?
I think we'll talk about that in executive session,
Okay.
but I think we'll talk about that in executive session.
Sense the consensus.
But
Hey, who am I?
unless somebody wants to make a motion right now, I think it's premature, but if that's what you guys want to do.
Nope, I'm just,
To adjourn.
Are there any other questions for right now? I want to make sure, because Abby came down to meet with us, and it's been very helpful.
I have a question
yeah.
that's not really specific to this thing, but Brattleboro's not listed on one of these sheets. Is there a reason for that?
Probably because Barb was
turn it
buried
in.
in FEMA work.
okay, then I won't say anything.
Yeah.
What's the difference
I just didn't
between
want
these
it to be
two?
forgotten.
One is the
Yeah.
one is
Normally,
VTCMA.
someone's printed it, but I didn't.
So this is the 2012 Executive Salary and Benefits Report. It's something we do under contract with the Vermont Town
okay.
City Managers Association. And then this one, 2012 Compensation Report, is our, and Brattleboro is here,
Yeah.
is our annual compensation. We do compensation and benefits surveys. And so this is it. Whoever responds to the survey, their information is in the report.
I just thought, I didn't want the VLTC to forget that we existed, so I
Oh,
thought.
no, we don't exist.
No.
I mean, it was really tough this year and the year before with FEMA stuff, and we felt bad even saying,
Yeah.
could you please?
Oh, no, I was just worried that like we had dropped off the
Oh, no.
state universe. I don't worry about it.
part of mass now.
It only feels that way most of the
We've
time.
So this one is newer, though?
They're both from 2012, so,
So the figures are different on the two forms.
So,
One says
Preliminarily
2010.
Right, that's
That's
population,
population,
2010.
I don't want you to think that it
But
was.
that's the,
For example.
They should
match.
I mean, they're different by, we send them out different times a year, so, people's contracts and things might be changing throughout the year.
It could be that. It could be that sometimes the single sheet is part of a bigger survey of all staff.
Yeah.
And that tends to happen, like for here, that tends to happen in the finance department. The executive tends to go to the executive because it asks things that aren't just payroll related.
Right.
Car allowances or things like that. So it could be the difference between who fills it out. I've always filled out the executive, which is why it wasn't done, and Brenda Breyer does the other
Oh,
one.
I'm not
Okay.
blaming you.
Oh, we can now.
It just got embarrassing.
So are there other questions of any sort for now?
None that I can think of.
All right. Well, then thank you very much for coming. It was a
Sure.
long way for a relatively short time, but
Thanks for having me.
we'll be right back in touch. I think what we're going to do is I'm going to move to enter executive session to discuss contractual matter where the board has concluded that premature public knowledge would put the municipality at a substantial disadvantage. And I don't think I'm going to invite anybody in but the five of us.
So moved.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Please say aye. Aye. So
Tommy's
anybody
first
opposed or
vote.
abstaining? All right, so that carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
We'll rise from executive session and adjourn.
Not a bad write-off.